traditional landlines are being confined to the history books by the end of 2025. BT, Virgin Media, TalkTalk and other big telecom providers are in the process of switching off the 14 million or so copper-based landlines that Brits have been using to make phone calls since 1911. In their place, you'll be making calls using a new broadband-powered alternative known as Voice over IP, or VoIP for short. If you've ever phoned a friend or family member using WhatsApp, Skype, or Zoom, then you're already familiar with this technology. BT, TalkTalk and Virgin Media all refer to this new system as digital voice, although depending on who your provider is, they might call it something a little different. So, why is this happening? Plans for a switch off of traditional analogue phone lines began back in November 2017. Crucially, this isn't a government scheme or deadline. The plans came from the industry itself. At the time, the telecom industry said they were struggling to find components to repair and maintain this copper phone line system because few companies still existed that were creating the right parts for this century-old technology. But it's not just about the nuts and bolts that keep the phone lines up and running. If you've ever made a call to a friend or relative on the other side of the planet, you'll know that digital calls can offer much clearer call quality, especially over longer distances. Not only that, but a number of features that you'd probably normally associate with your mobile phone, like blocking incoming calls from withheld numbers or putting other calls in a queue when you're already on the phone, are also possible with all digital landlines. And for most people, the switch should be as simple as taking your existing home phone and plugging it into the back of the Wi-Fi router that you were sent by your provider. And that's it. The phone number will stay the same, as should your monthly bills. So what's the problem? Well, unfortunately, it's not always as simple as that. Some people have been left without a landline for weeks, while others have lost the home phone number they've had for decades. But the biggest headache with the switchover has been for the 1.8 million people across the UK who use personal safety alarms around their neck that can make an emergency call at the touch of a button. Predominantly used by elderly or vulnerable people, these devices can make a life-saving call after a bad fall or during a critical health episode. Many of these telecare devices work seamlessly with the new broadband-powered landlines, but enough critical phone calls didn't get through that at the end of 2023, BT, Virgin Media, TalkTalk and other big telecom providers slammed the brakes on the upgrade to digital voice for the most vulnerable in society. Now, work has restarted since then, but not before all companies agreed to a new set of guidelines that guaranteed that people wouldn't be left without their telecare device during the migration process. Sadly, that's not all, as there are a few other quirks with this digital voice landline system. Since they rely on a broadband connection to make calls, an internet outage or a power cut will leave you without your home phone. That's very different to the trusty old copper phone lines, which are powered and therefore can continue to work when everything else in your home is out. That's pretty important during emergencies. Thankfully, there are a few ways to solve this. Vulnerable people can request a backup battery pack that can be connected to the home phone to keep everything up and running, even during power outages. And phones with a built-in SIM card that immediately switches over to the mobile network during a broadband outage are also available. For most people, the switchover should be a seamless process. And if you've already got full fibre broadband at home, chances are you're already using digital voice and hopefully getting a few less spam calls. But if you're worried about the switchover, the best thing to do is be proactive. If you don't have broadband at home, or live in an area with poor mobile signal in case anything goes wrong, or use a telecare safety device, then it's best to reach out to your provider and flag your concerns to them. BT, TalkTalk, Virgin Media and the other big telecom providers in the UK say they'll always reach out at least 4 weeks before a switch is going to happen to make sure everything's in order. And that's everything you really need to know about Britain's move from century-old analogue copper phone lines to a new VoIP system.